I want that union card to be able to say good wages, good benefits, job security, way more than it does with this GM joint venture here.
BusinessJournalDaily.com. 3 Minutes With is brought to you by Farmers National Bank.
Who's the only local bank with a mobile mortgage app? Farmers. Download the app to contact your lender, calculate payments, securely scan and upload documents, and check the status of your loan. Fiercely local, fiercely loyal, Farmers.
Yesterday, I sent a letter to general motors calling on them to include workers at the Lordstown battery plant in the national UAW contract. I was joined by more than 24 of my colleagues on this letter. The workers, here's the problem: the workers right now who are making the batteries that will power the next generation of American cars. Some of them are making only about $16 an hour. These are highly skilled workers. They've put their time in, sometimes at Lordstown, sometimes other plants. Now they're making barely minimum wage in far too many places in Ohio, in the Valley, and in Illinois especially. We know how to make cars in the Mahoning Valley. It's ingrained in our history. I want us to lead the country and lead the world in the entire electric vehicle supply chain. The workers have to share in these benefits, as they did with good union contracts in Lordstown from the early days of Chevy to the later days of the Chevy Cruze. But workers have, as I said, workers have to share in those benefits. It's not just executives making more money and GM making more money. The big three automakers are in the middle of contract negotiation, the UAW. These workers in the Ultium GM battery plant have already overwhelmingly, I think close to 90%, voted for union representation. They know what the UAW means to the Valley. There's no reason these workers should be excluded from the national UAW contract. GM is highly profitable. Investors and executives make it big. Executives pay themselves huge stock buybacks. There's been government help in these cases. And they make this money because of the work that auto workers do. They need a raise. GM can absolutely afford to give it to them. We know GM abandoned auto workers in the Valley when they closed the Lordstown plant. We can't allow them that kind of behavior again.
What's the position from some of the workers that you've talked to, I guess, or have you talked to President Fain about this particular letter and the particular instances that he's alleged from the plant?
I talked to President Fain last week, and I believe the Secretary Treasurer of the National UAW. I talk to UAW people all the time. We've made the push directly with General Motors before we sent this letter signed by essentially a third of the Senate. I'm not giving up. We know that GM is tough in these cases, but they've got to bring along this Korean company and pay more wages. Any UAW member I talk to, they're offended at $16 an hour. They're having trouble getting people to work. There's some people leave GM at $16 an hour to go work retail, which historically is paid about half of GM, but some retail operations are paying a good bit higher than $16 an hour. This is, I mean, it's sort of like a bad dream. I mean, it's just hard to imagine. These workers voted 90% to be represented by GM. It's hard to imagine that a UAW member, to be represented by the UAW. It's hard to believe that a UAW member carrying a union card isn't paid a livable wage. My wife grew up in Ashtabula. She got an asthma attack at 16. An ambulance, her dad was a utility worker, carried a union card. And because he carried a union card, it saved her life. She was able to have an ambulance take her to the Cleveland Clinic. She spent 2 weeks there. It saved her life at the age of 16 because her dad held a union card. I want that UAW union. He wasn't UAW, but he was at a good union, utility workers. I want that union card to be able to say good wages, good benefits, job security, way more than it does with this GM joint venture here.
BusinessJournalDaily.com. 3 Minutes With is brought to you by Farmers National Bank.
Who's the only local bank with a mobile mortgage app? Farmers. Download the app to contact your lender, calculate payments, securely scan and upload documents, and check the status of your loan. Fiercely local, fiercely loyal, Farmers.